Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Thank you my new subscribers to my channel, and thank you for the ones who stayed with me for all these years. Without these videos, none of us would learn the real truth, why we have to learn what Watchtower has never told any of us: how wicked the governing body is, how corrupt this organization is when it comes to child abuse, covering up many things that proves how wicked we are. Because just because we don't know everything that elders don't tell us, Watchtower don't tell us, we will never know how evil to carry this name Jehovah's Witnesses truly is. This is the second part of my last video, how they use an Enoch to show the persecution, what they claim that Enoch was going through, which there's not a whole lot going to Enoch in the regular Bible, but the book Enoch brings out more than the Bible does. So he acts like he, well, the guidance of Watchtower, they act like they know a little bit more about Enoch than the Bible does. But the main thing I wanted to bring out, what they was bringing out about Abraham and Sarah, when they left their homeland to go to a land that God or Christ was going to give them, and their future and the future children would inherit that land forever. And we know exactly where that is. But they was trying to make a point that they gave up a good lifestyle and to be wanderers throughout the land till they get to the area where they was going to live for the future sons and daughters. The thing is, Jehovah's Witnesses, they're making Abraham to be poor. Yes, he lived in tents, but he had a lot of money, gold, silver, how you want to look at it, what they was using at that time. He had a lot of animals, camels, sheep, and all that. So he was pretty wealthy compared to most people. Because remember, him and Lot had so much animals, they had to separate it. So that means he wasn't poor. But Watchtower is making you believe he was poor, so you won't go out and get a better education. You won't try to improve your life by saving money when you get older up in age, when you should build a nest egg for yourself. But the thing is, Watchtower has took all that from all of us, including me and a bunch of other people. Because remember, we don't got a few more years to Armageddon. well, a few more years to people like us who done passed 1975 and a few other Armageddons they mentioned that never came true. They're trying to make you so poor that you have to rely on Watchtower to support you up here mentally, and all they're doing is destroying you really mentally till you find out the truth. It's all been a scam. It's all been lies from Watchtower from day one. Another false religion, and this is a dangerous cult. Through the blood doctrine, they're shining, and they're covering up pedophiles, and allowing abusive husbands to hurt his children, his wife, anytime he please, because the children got to be submissive. The wife has to be submissive and obedient to him, no matter how many times he beats her, slap her around. It's always her fault, the children's fault. This is a dangerous cult. So sit back and analyze Enoch and Abraham. I did cut it off just when he mentioned the word Moses, but I'm going to have to analyze that one, and then I may put that one up. We'll see. So thank you for watching this, and y'all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Eden, and 7 centuries was plenty of time for Earth's population to grow and for the rebellion to grow and blossom likewise. 7 centuries. From Satan's view that humans would not uphold Jehovah's sovereignty likely at this point, 7 centuries in seemed to be winning out, perhaps at a glance. The earth was well on its way to being full of violence, as Jehovah would describe it in Noah's day. Interestingly, some 400 years earlier, organized false religion, according to the scriptures, made its first appearance 400 years before Enoch's time. At Genesis 4, the scriptures speak of there beginning to be a calling on Jehovah's name. But apparently this was in a mocking, derisive, insulting way. You see, the beginning of false religion. So there was that element now that Enoch was up against. Satan's influence on human society was already very, very powerful, even at this early point. Just imagine this solitary figure delivering the prophetic message of judgment against this society, wherever and whomever he would meet. After some time, these individuals, they weren't just dismissive or slightly irritated by Enoch's message, but rather they decided to put a violent end to this man and his prophetic message. The threat of this was so imminent, it was so certain that Jehovah, of course, prevented this. Jehovah intervened in his servant's behalf. Now, just this detail about Enoch, we don't know much more than this, but what does this teach us? How does this, that would help us in our standing with God? Well, in his case, we find proof that Jehovah can give courage to those that bear his name and desire to do his will. He can give them courage. Think of it. Fear of man and fear of this godless society apparently was no real obstacle to Enoch and his faithfully carrying out his assignment. If Jehovah could provide Enoch with the courage to do his will in such a difficult, remarkable situation, and he could do that with without the additional help of his written word, or Enoch was all alone apparently as far as a servant of Jehovah, so he had no one that he could rely on, no one that could help him, and yet this was no hindrance to Jehovah giving this man all the courage he needed to carry out this assignment. So certainly Jehovah will give us courage to fulfill our ministry. We do not need to be in fear of man. Even when from time to time individuals are hostile or they are rude to us as we bring the good news to them. And why is this important? When we think about our standing with God, really trusting Jehovah in this regard, well, it's because fear of man can quickly destroy a good standing with Jehovah. So we appreciate Enoch's example and how that can encourage us. Another example, Abraham and Sarah. Couples and individuals who are desirous of a good standing with Jehovah can likewise learn a lot from these two and their life pattern. We're familiar with the fact that they were asked to leave the wealthy community of Ur, and most likely a comfortable and even prosperous lifestyle. And they were asked to travel as nomads, a life in the open, a life in tents, literally, in foreign lands where they would always be the outsider. Now, Hebrews 11:8 adds a critical piece of information to this remarkable sacrifice that they were already asked to make. Let's look at Hebrews 11:8. Hebrews 11:8 says, "By faith, when he was called, obeyed. By going out to a place he was to receive as an inheritance. He went out, although not knowing where he was going." Think about that, how that one factor changes things. He didn't know where he was going. Can't you just imagine how that one thing potentially could have complicated matters considerably, and this sacrifice they were asked to make, at least in the minds of Abraham and Sarah and the family that traveled with them. They were setting out on a journey with a lot less hard information than we would usually want or need, isn't it true? At this point, they probably had far more questions than they had answers. Now, as they would soon learn, although Jehovah had provided them with very little information at the outset, it wasn't because Jehovah didn't have something very specific in mind for them. And along with the assignment that they would carry out, rich blessings beyond anything they could have imagined. Blessings in response to this remarkable faith that they demonstrated. Now, many present-day witnesses have displayed similar faith and trust in Jehovah by making material sacrifices in order to be more useful in Jehovah's service. They give up lucrative careers, or careers that maybe weren't making them rich, but something that they enjoyed quite a bit. It was important to them, and they had a talent for it, and they gave these things up so as to put God's kingdom first. Now, to a casual, uninformed observer, from looking at the situation from an entirely fleshly point of view, this would make no sense at all. It would be as irrational as probably observing what Abraham and Sarah did. Why on earth are you? What are you doing? You see, leaving all of this for an uncertain future. Jehovah is very pleased when we make sacrifices both large and small in order to put him and true worship first in our lives. And likewise, he has in mind rich blessings for us in response to these sacrifices we make. And so Abraham and Sarah, their example certainly underscores the fact that making sacrifices and being willing to make sacrifices large and small plays a big part in our standing with God. Now, sometimes what threatens a person's good standing with Jehovah is the influence and the persuasiveness of worldly propaganda, which says things like this: you have a right to whatever you want. In fact, you have a right to it immediately. The life that you want, the things that you want, the experiences that you want. In fact, this world feels like to settle for anything less is a life largely wasted. That is the message. And to delay gratification, to put off what we want is not a noble thing, but rather it's a sign of weakness. And the arguments for this approach to life are hard to ignore, aren't they? And certainly part of this is because not just because it's told so well, so effectively, this kind of thinking, but also it, from the start, has this appeal to our hearts. You see, our imperfect hearts. But consider the man Moses. Now Moses